Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. I'm so fortunate today for my next guest. His name is John Jackson. John is a real estate investor. He's a mentor. He's been in the business since 2003. He's known as the king of lease options. He's completed over 600 lease option transactions, and his students have done hundreds more. He's also been featured on Fox News, NBC, several podcasts, radio shows, and has a #1 best-selling book on Amazon called Real Estate Rock Stars. Speaking of rock stars, John Jackson, thanks for being here,
Hey,
my man. How are you?
good man. Does my bio say 600? It's well over 800. I need
Well,
to update my bio then.
yeah, we need to get that updated.
Yeah. And I've got many more in the pipeline right here on my desk. So yeah, great to be here, Benson. Super excited to be here and share anything I can with you and the audience and anybody that follows you.
I love it, man. Well, it's so cool. Like, you've been in the business for
21
a long
years.
time, right? Very
I
long
saw,
time.
I saw you trying to do math in your head.
Well, listen, I've been in the business since 2001, right? So, you could consider me your elder, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah,
Um, but you've seen a lot, right? So you've been
yeah.
through ups and downs. You saw the 2008 crash, you've seen some housing booms, you went through COVID. Um, what are some of the key principles that you've seen that where lease options has just been like a solid strategy all through the ups and downs of the volatile markets?
Yeah, so I've been through, like I said, I've been through all the markets in 21 years, ups and downs, the crash, all that. Where lease options really thrive is when the market is soft. So in '08, '07, '08, '09, as fix and flippers or we're or buy and holds, we're losing money, foreclosure, bankruptcy, all that stuff. My business is actually thriving. And here we are again in 2024. The last 2 years, the real estate has picked up again for us. And so the bottom line is the worse the economy, the better my real estate stuff does. Because with what I do with lease options is we're plan B for the sellers. So plan A is stick it on the market or stick it for sale by owner sign out there and hope someone pays you, 40K over asking or whatever. When a seller has problems selling the house, that's where we come in. And we provide them with that plan B where they get full price, no commission, they get cash flow, and we get them cashed out within a year. So our business really thrives in a down market, which is why it's so busy right now with when the interest rates went up. And plus we were kind of at a bit of a bubble, all markets are cyclical. So it's been really busy the last couple of years, very busy.
Yeah. So lease options is a word that a lot of people throw around. Like, break it down for us. Like, what is a lease option from its foundation so that people can understand what this creative strategy is all about?
Yeah, so there's three different types of lease options. There's a straight lease option, sandwich lease option, and an assignment, a lease option assignment. What I do primarily is the lease option assignment, where I'm packaging up the lease option and marketing it. So I'm essentially a marketing company. But what is a lease option? A lease option is simply a lease with the option to purchase. So the buyer comes in, puts down non-refundable money, and now they've got the option to buy that property during that option period, during that lease period. So to bring it more tangible, if someone has ever leased a BMW, a Cadillac, or Mercedes, that was a lease option. You were leasing the BMW, you had the option to buy it at any time during that lease period. We do the same thing, except we do it with houses instead of a car. So it benefits the seller because they get full price, they get non-refundable money down, obviously that cash flow, and they get someone in that's not just renting; they're actually working towards buying it. So a totally different mindset from the buyer. For the buyer, they get to kind of try it before you buy it, if you will, but really they get into the house. They don't have to go through, fill out a 1003 loan application and all this stuff. So it's very easy for the buyer to get into a house, get settled, get situated, kids in school, whatever. And then in the course of that lease option period, prepare for financing. So it gives them a runway of time.
Mm. So
Yeah.
during that time period, they're fixing their situation. So if they're doing a lease option or a lease in general because they probably don't have good credit or they don't have liquidity for a down payment, or there's some other situation they need to resolve so they could
Yeah.
qualify for a traditional loan.
So a lot of people, a lot of the buyers we work with are self-employed. And if you're self-employed, you write off everything you can. You file an extension every year. You know the routine, and it's just so it's not the best for trying to fit under the boxes of the lender's underwriting guidelines. So with our buyers, it gives them that time to get things in place. Most of our buyers that we work with really don't have much credit issues. There may be a few dings on there, but nothing, substantial. So these aren't people with a 400 FICO score. These are just people that need a little bit of time to get things in place for finance. It's just that they want that runway of time. Maybe they're self-employed, maybe they're relocating, whatever the case may be. They haven't really prepared to look, stellar to an underwriter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this gives them that runway of time to get things in place. And actually, before we started recording, we were talking about a commercial property. Lease options are actually more widely used in commercial real estate. It's just that we do it with single family houses. So where you might see it with commercial real estate, if say you're leasing a warehouse or you need to lease a warehouse for your HVAC company or whatever it is, instead of just leasing it, if you have the option to buy it, well, now you've got a set price, right, during that lease period to buy that property. So instead of just leasing it and hoping the owner doesn't raise the rent, hoping the owner doesn't sell, and all these unknowns, you can secure that property with a lease option. So it's actually more widely used in commercial real estate.
Mm. And then what are the benefits for the seller?
So again, they're going to get a full price. They're going to get a non-refundable option fee. So that's your down payment. And they're going to get cash flow. And the single family, the buyer's going to take, in most cases, phenomenal care of the property, meticulous care, care of the property, because they're actually in the process of getting financed. So if you think about a seller and the levels of desperation, there's for sale by owner, MLS, for rent, for lease, and then you jump down to wholesale, cash offer, or sub two foreclosure, or short sale foreclosure. But as you move down that line of desperation, if a seller is trying to sell a house and maybe they've already moved and that house is just sitting there empty and they're paying taxes and insurance and their payments every month and it's bleeding them $3,000 or $3,500 a month, they think plan B is to rent it out. Because you can ask them, well, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do if it doesn't sell? Because the two most important questions in real estate, Benson, are what are you going to do with the money and what are you going to do if it doesn't sell? So when you ask a seller, what are you going to do if it doesn't sell? A lot of times they'll say, well, I guess I'll just rent the damn thing. Well, they don't want to be landlords.
Right.
But they would much rather have someone living in the house that's put down non-refundable, option fee, making those payments each month, that's actually in the process of buying the house rather than someone that's just renting it and they don't know what's going to happen.
Right. So they'd much prefer something like this than just going and doing like a traditional rental where they're the landlord. They got to fix toilets.
Yep.
They can structure the lease option in a way where the person acts like an owner. Like you said, they take care of it meticulously and they've got pride of ownership. They're thinking, man, this is my house in a year where I'm going to get my crap together. So I'm going to take care of this thing. And so the person who doesn't want to be a landlord doesn't have to be over there all the time, making sure that things are being taken care of.
Yeah. Because with the lease option, the buyer is going to take very good care of the property. Again, you've got to vet the buyer, but they're going to take very good care of the property just as if it's their own because they're in the process of getting financed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you insert yourself into that transaction then from an investor? So you're out there looking for people who are having trouble selling their houses, right? You're looking for 30 days on market plus.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're approaching these people. And so how do you get in the middle of that transaction between the seller and the buyer?
Yeah. So what my company does, Leasing to Buy, my company, is we'll approach these sellers, whether they're, we pull lists as, 30 days on market on the MLS. We'll send them a direct mail campaign. We have other software that'll scrape for sub owners. But the point is that we're approaching them with plan B. Hey, here's what a lease option would look like. Here's what the numbers would look like for you. We then package that up between the seller and our company. We then go find that buyer. And then when we find that buyer, we simply assign that contract to that buyer. So that buyer's paying our fee, which is the
Mm,
option fee, which is about 5% of the price of the house. So on a $400,000 house, that buyer's going to pay us $20,000 for our assignment fee. But that assignment fee is the option consideration. So it'll be applied towards the purchase when they go to get financed.
mm.
Yeah.
But
So
you're gonna carve off some of that for yourself, and then some of it
yeah,
will go to the seller.
we give a little bit of that to the seller, maybe 1% or so, maybe
Mhm.
maybe equivalent of 1 month's payment, maybe a little bit less. So, but so the lion's share is ours. Yeah.
Right, but in a
Yeah.
traditional sense, if they had done this outside of your assistance, then they would get the full
Right.
down payment, right? Does
Yeah.
it
So,
take some convincing, like, how much they're gonna get? Like, if they maybe they're familiar with this structure. They're like, "Oh, wow, well, we could get more than this if we go direct."
yeah. And so sellers don't want to do it themselves because they don't know how.
Mm,
Let me ask you, Benson, have you ever been to the dentist?
I have.
Have you ever had a cavity?
It's been years, yeah.
Or did you go to the dentist to have it fixed?
I did, yeah.
Why? There's videos all over YouTube of how to, drill a hole in your tooth.
It's true. Well, if I had mirrors and I had the ability to get my hands in there and do it, I would probably try. I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer. I'm a DIYer.
So,
But most probably wouldn't.
so they don't want to do it themselves because this isn't their specialty. It is our specialty. Same reason why a seller may list it with an agent. Why don't they just do it themselves, especially with, internet and websites, just list,
Mhm.
just put it out there yourself. You can list it on the MLS for $97 yourself, you know. But they trust us because this is what we do with our expertise and how to structure everything with that lease option. And so it's not, you use the phrase difficult to sell. When I'm talking to the seller, it's the easiest conversation I think in real estate you can possibly have because I'm not convincing them. I'm not trying to convince them, oh, you got to do this, you got to do this. I'm not negotiating with them. I'm simply saying, here's what I do. Let me get your email address. I'll send you a couple of emails. One on what is it we do? Who are we? The second, some preliminary numbers. When I send those preliminary numbers to the seller, 99% of the time, those are the numbers we're going to go with. And it'll show what the option price is going to be, how much we're going to make, how much we're going to give the seller, and all of that. So it's not a sales call. Like if you're trying to buy someone's house for cash, totally different conversation.
Right.
Totally different. I look at it this way. Myself and my students, we're the real estate doctors. That's all we are. We're the real estate doctors. So we're talking to a seller. They've got a pain point. They've got a problem. All right, let's talk about that. Is the house? How long have you been trying to sell the house? Have you already moved out of the house? How many? How long has it been empty? Oh my gosh, that long. Wow, you've made a lot of empty house payments. Blah blah blah. What are you gonna do if it doesn't sell? Well, I guess we'll just rent the damn thing. Then of course, I go, oh my gosh, you want to become a landlord? It wouldn't be much better to have someone living in the house making payments that's actually in the process of buying it. And that's it. So it's not a sales job. But from a real estate doctor's perspective, they're telling me their pain points, what's going on with the property or in their lives. And then from that, I can write a prescription. Most of the time it's a lease option, or I may say, well, here's two prescriptions. Let's talk about each. Here's the lease option. Here's what that looks like. Here's seller finance. Here's what that looks like. Here's the pros and cons of each. And then let the seller decide which prescription they want to take.
Right.
And it's not the doctor's job to drive the patient to CVS and make sure he took the prescription. I'm just saying, hey, here's the prescriptions. Here's what it looks like.
Right.
And so with that mindset, again, it makes the conversation with the seller so easy because there's no pressure on me.
Yeah.
No pressure on me.
Well, so if these properties are on market, then there's an agent usually, right? And so how does the agent get work into the situation? You're typically waiting for a listing to expire and then you're
No,
working with the agent, or does the agent get paid through this process?
yeah, great question. So a lot of our deals are actually for sell by owner or expired listings. For
Hmm.
me personally, I do direct mail to MLS. Um, and what happens then is the sellers call me and I talk to them, about where does it hurt, what's going on, bap, 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 bap. And I say, well, here's a prescription for you, or here's a couple prescriptions for you. And they'll say, well, no, my house is still listed with an agent. Do I need to wait till that expires? I go, no, that's totally between you and your agent. I work with the agent all day long. Just let your agent know that you're looking to offer it as a lease option while you keep it listed. Keep that pole in the water on that side of the boat. Let me be on the other side of the boat with a fishing net.
Mm,
And if you get a contract first, you just call me, let me know. You don't owe me anything. And so I almost never, ever, ever, ever talk to the agent.
right.
And then the next question is, well, well, how do they get paid? Well, if we lease option it first, as far as how your agent gets paid, that's whatever you and your agent have worked out. That's a conversation you want to have with your agent. So in other words, I'm not putting myself in that conversation.
Right.
I'm just talking to the seller.
Yeah, because you're not trying to buy the house, right? You're just helping them to figure out another option where they
Another,
could potentially, like if they were just going to rent it out themselves, same situation. If they were just going to put it on the market, say, you know what, agent, we can't get the price that we need. We're getting offers, but they're low ball, so we can't pay off the mortgage. So let's just pull it from the market. I'm going to rent it out. Like that's an option
yep,
they might
that's,
choose on their own, but
yeah,
you're just giving them another way of doing it.
yep, exactly. So I never talk to the agent. I'm not here as competition. I'm just here to help the seller, right?
Yeah.
And because I'm not cold calling the seller, I don't ever cold call MLS listed properties. That would be tortious interference. I'm just doing, you know, doing direct mail campaigns, right? And this
Right.
calls me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because by that point, they've already gone through all the potential options with their agent, right? Price
yeah.
reductions,
Yep.
maybe we can do, some more, you know, other things within the listing that would attract more buyers. But we can only go so far with that because you have a payoff you have to take into consideration, and they don't want to give their house away a lot of the times. So
Yeah,
this is a good option for many, many sellers.
and if they're paying 6%, or if they're going to have to pay 6% commission, that eats, that adds up.
Yeah.
So, so again, it's a very easy conversation with the sellers. Um, I'm not, uh, I'm not trying to sell them on anything. I'd say, hey, here's what we do, and
Yeah.
here's what it looks like, and let them decide. But most sellers, I don't know what the percentage is, very high, but most sellers, once they see the information and have that conversation with me, they're like, hey, this looks pretty good. This
Yeah.
looks good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you're right. There's not a lot of moving parts there. I'm sure the contract has some, some fine, fine tuning. You have to make sure everything's covered and everyone's protected in the contract. And those are proprietary, probably, right? You've had some proprietary contracts that you've developed over the years.
oh yeah, I've spent quite a bit on the contracts over the years, especially because I'm in Texas. Um, so it's tens of thousands of dollars over the years for tweaking and adjusting and getting those really dialed in. Yeah, uh,
Yeah.
on the contracts, but um, but yeah, so the seller can mark. If it's for sub owner, we say, hey, don't change anything. Stick it out. Keep it out there. Keep it out there for sub owner. Let me do my thing. You get an offer first, just let me know. They don't pay
Yeah.
us anything. Yeah. So sellers love the fact that it's to them a fresh approach, a new approach, and that it's opposite of what a real estate agent might normally do. Which, oh, you got to sign this exclusive right to sell for 6 months, and as soon as you sign that contract, I own you. You can't do anything with the house. I'm like, no, I'm the opposite of an agent. I look at it as, if this were my house, what would I want to be able to do? I'd want to be able to do whatever I want.
Right.
you know, I have that flexibility to market any way I want as well. And so they like that about us. And
Yeah.
like I said, if they get a contract first, they don't pay us and their sellers are shocked. I'm like, I'm just here to help.
So similar to wholesale, there's two sides of the transaction. There's the deal acquisition, right, and getting the contract, and then you have the disposition side where you have to go find these buyers. So what's the strategy to find these people who need these lease option opportunities to get into the house?
Yeah. So I was just telling someone today, I've been this for 21 years and still to date, the way I get more buyers, more leads than any other website or anything is my signs.
Mm,
Signs in the yard. I've got there's one over there by the wall. My professional aluminum, leasing buy sign has my phone number. We've got yellow directional signs that we have printed that drive traffic to the house. And that's what gets us more leads than anything. And of course, we have our website, Leasing to Buy. And then we use other ways online through syndication websites like Turbo Tenant, Zumper, Fizber, obviously Facebook Marketplace, other Facebook groups as well, you know, for sub-owner groups, whatever the case may be. But that's how we get
yeah.
buyers. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the matching part that it can be challenging, I'm assuming, right? Because you might have a perfectly like a perfect contract with a seller and you get a perfect buyer, but they have to fit somehow, right? Like the buyer has to look at that house and be like, "Oh yeah, I want that house. I want a 4-bedroom, 2-bath." But what if they don't like the neighborhood? Like, so what
So
do you do to help with those people that just haven't found that right property
I
yet?
tell them to suck it up, Buttercup. Give me that option fee. Sign
Yeah.
here. So what happens is with if you're if you're pre-approved for a loan, you've got that flexibility, you've got that leverage to be able to go, I don't like this one. I wanted this bedroom downstairs. I wanted, blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
But with the lease option, you don't have, you know, 1,500 houses to choose from on the MLS. You've got like five,
Right.
right? And we have them all. So you don't have that flexibility. Um, so if they see a house that's now granted, if they want a particular, uh, general location, school district, price range, whatever, that's different. But for the most part, what you see is what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
Yeah.
But these are very nice houses that we have. We have them across the nation, but these aren't crap boxes. These are nice 300, 400, half a million, $1 million houses that we have that we're marketing. So these are any one of these houses is move in ready. Some have been fully rehabbed if they're investor owned, but they're all move in ready. Very
Yeah.
nice houses. Yeah.
So I can see where this network of students comes into play here because now you guys can share
Yep.
the demand and the supply
Yep.
of both sides, right? Like if you just can't find that right buyer for the house that you have, there's a good chance that one of your students has that buyer.
Exactly. And that's why. So I'm in the Fort Worth area, Fort Worth, Texas, and I don't have any students here in Fort Worth. Uh, and I wish I had one or two. People say, "Oh, isn't that competition?" No, it's more cars on the car lot. That's why it's the analogy I use is let me have one or two students in the Fort Worth area. Let them do their marketing. I'm doing my marketing instead of me having whatever it is, 15 or 16 houses to choose from. Let's double that, right?
Mhm.
Because now you're building up a lot more sellers, a lot more buyers. So yeah, with our students, they can say, "Oh, that house, if that house is too much for you, hey, so and so in Orlando, down the road has this house available." So yeah, they can share those leads.
Yeah. Was that part of your reasoning for getting into the coaching side of the business? Or was it
No,
just kind of like organically, like you realized, oh, we can share each other's resources?
no, I actually, I didn't. So I got into coaching, I think, in 2009, and the way I kind of worked into that because I didn't want to be a guru because that had such a bad name back in the early 2000s, and maybe it still does. But I just wanted to do my thing, and I was helping others online, with their deals. But after 2005, Texas had specific laws about lease options, and I inadvertently became the only guy doing them, the only guy teaching them. I shouldn't say teaching them, the only guy who was showing them, telling people how to do it. And then there's this real annoying guy named Joe McCall who he said, John, you gotta teach people, you need to create a course. You got to create a course and teach people how to do this. And this was probably 06 or 07. I don't remember when it was, maybe 07. I said, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And he finally convinced me. So I put everything this is way back. I created this entire course around Texas lease options, put it onto a CD. I was burning them at home,
Mhm.
print the labels. This is old school. And I was selling them for whatever it was, $500 to anybody that wanted them. And then I would go to real estate groups and speak, and I would have real estate attorneys show up to hear me speak, but mainly to buy my CD because they wanted my contracts. But that's so then I got into coaching in I think 09, 08 or 09. Yeah. Where it's just one-on-one. Someone would reach out to me and they'd spend a few days with me.
Yeah.
And that's how that got started. And then it became a big 3-day event with 80 people in a ballroom and all that. And I don't do that anymore. That's an
I
under.
don't know. I've seen you up on a ballroom stage from time to time. But usually it's from an emceeing perspective, right? So
Yeah,
you're doing a
yeah.
lot of emceeing, and I mean, you actually used to be a stand-up comic back in the day.
Back in the 90 late in the 90s, yeah, for about 10 years off and on. I was a stand-up comedian. So, and because of that, being on stage is super, super, I don't think anything about it. It's kind of my comfort zone uh,
Right.
with a microphone and an audience. But yeah, I did that for about 10 years off and on. Because when I was in sixth grade, when all the guys wanted to be football players or baseball players or whatever, uh, I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. And I just never really pursued. I mean, I did the stand-up thing, but I didn't pursue stand-up as a business. Like
Sure.
if I were to go back in time, it's okay. Well, this is more than just cute little fun traveling all around on stage. It's, you got to structure this as what's your goal? How are you going to approach this as a business?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, what's your goal, right? Because I mean, show business is one of the toughest businesses to make any money in or have
Mhm.
any meaningful success. So people just burn out because they don't take it seriously, like a job.
Oh
Like you got
yeah.
to be at a certain place at a certain time. You got to make sure every day you're writing new content,
Hmm.
writing new jokes, keeping it fresh, making sure you're not taking other people's material. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. We call
that's a
that
full-time
hacking.
job.
Yeah. 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 So, but yeah, I stopped doing that. I got tired of being all over the map. And as a middler, yeah, I think you got paid, this is way back. I think you got paid $150, maybe $200 a weekend, be a middler. I think the headliner made like $600, maybe.
Right.
It is way back.
That's if you could get booked, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
that consistency in the booking is probably the challenge.
Yeah.
But I can see that skill that you learned from being up on stage, the ability to talk to people under pressure, and that probably translates fairly well into talking with sellers and negotiating and trying to find win-wins.
You know what? It does because I'm not nervous. So many people are nervous about talking to sellers, and it's just second nature to me. Um, because well, one of the biggest things is that I'm not selling them anything, but also just because you can have just an easy conversation with them, and a lot of times I'll use humor talking to a seller. It kind of breaks that ice, and they kind of drop their wall and makes it easier to talk to. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely can. I mean, but also like the networking aspect of it, being comfortable with people building your network, and they say your network is your net worth.
Mhm.
And so you've been in the business 21 years now. You've probably built quite a network of people out there that you can work with and bounce ideas off of and have like a support group. Did you ever have a mentor or somebody along the way who helped you?
You know what? So in the lease option world, in the real estate world, when I first started in '03, there wasn't much out there about lease options at the time. But there was a forum, uh, just this forum that was about lease options. And the guy that ran that group, Michael Carbonari, um, helped me a lot. I bought a $97 manual from him. I still got it. It's the ugliest, cheapest thing you've ever seen. Uh, but it got me the very basics understanding of lease option. And then as I was uh, doing my thing and get my first deal under contract, he was able to help kind of guide me through, say, okay, it's okay. That's exciting, but breathe, we'll get through this. So he was a huge help back when I first started. Um, and obviously along the way, I had been able to meet so many people and have so many great relationships with people in the business that certainly well, I wouldn't anything for a lease option, but if I needed something in some other space, maybe it's commercial or whatever the case may be, I can easily reach out to someone um, and get that help. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
with lease options, I'm actually writing a book. I don't know the title just yet. I was thinking about lease option blueprint or uh, I don't know, the lease option Bible or lease options, how to buy, sell, and control real estate with little to no money. But I'm about halfway through with it and should be done here in about 6 weeks. But I'm writing it not because I wake up every morning excited thinking about lease options. I just figure if someone's going to write it, it might as well be me. Uh, but um, but I'm writing that book also because people think lease options are some very complex mystery thing. And the truth is, it's the most simple thing. In my opinion, it's the simplest thing you can do in real estate.
Mm.
It's so easy that when I tell people what I do, even seasoned investors, they look at me waiting for like something more complex. Like, yeah, yeah. And then what? I'm like, that's it. That's what I do. Like, no, there's got to be more. No, that's it. That's pretty easy. And so I'm very honest with people and say, look, if you want something incredibly exciting in real estate that gets the blood pumping and the excitement and the drilling going, I'm not the guy because what I do is boring. I mean, it's literally boring in the sense of we've got the systems down. Well, we talk to the sellers and then I copy paste 2 emails to them. Copy paste. I mean, how exciting is that? Copy paste. You know,
It's not very, but it's
yeah.
simple.
And I'm not negotiating. It's just so simple. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not complex. Yeah, but and I think lease options are, in my opinion, uh, one of the best ways to start in real estate, especially the way I do it, because there's no risk, nobody's checking credit. You don't need money. I started with a $65 sign, and that was it. Um, there's nothing at risk. You're not making payments on a house. You're not having to rehab it or anything. And so it just makes that entry into real estate very, very easy. In my opinion, it's a lot easier than wholesaling, in my opinion. I'll wholesale stuff if it comes across my desk, but with wholesaling, there's massive amount of marketing you've got to do, cold calling or texting and sorting through all these sellers that aren't even sellers. They're not sellers. They're just people that own real estate, and you're the fifth person to call them before noon to ask if they want to sell their house. Right? There's
Right.
competition out there. Then you got to get the numbers right. Um, so, in my opinion, it's way, way, way easier than wholesaling. In my opinion,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you've done over 800 transactions in this time period, and I'm sure there was some struggles along the way. Like where in that timeline did you have some hiccups where maybe things didn't work out the way you thought they were going to work out, or maybe you had to figure something out. You talked about
Yeah.
this, Texas law that changed, and there's probably some legal obstacles you have to keep an eye out for, or even some personal struggles.
So, um, when I was starting off, keep in mind this is in the early days of the internet. I don't even know if we had Craigslist yet. There wasn't really a way or a guide on how to market for the sellers.
Hmm.
Um, I actually think one of the ways that was taught to find sellers was to go to the newspaper classified ads for houses for sale. Oh my God.
Well, that's Craigslist before Craigslist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did was I went to a website called Buy Owner, which is still around. I don't know if anybody uses it, but It was a first sale by owner website, and I would print off all the listings and spend two hours a night cold calling all those people way back in 2003, 2004. Um, so that was a learning curve, trying to figure out how do I get the marketing down. I got my first house driving for dollars, my second house driving for dollars. And it was really, having to figure this out on your own on how do I market. And then the light bulb finally went off one day. I was doing a number of houses for home investors. The franchisees would bring me houses, because I did one house for one, and they started telling all the franchisees about me. And the light bulb went off one day, and I was like, how do I find someone that's trying to sell their house? Who is it that wants to sell their house? And the light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God, I know who wants to sell their house. Someone that's trying to sell their house.
Whoa.
Oh,
Mind blowing.
yes. So, all right. So now I had to create this whole direct mail thing. I didn't know anything about direct mail, and they didn't have these websites now to do the direct mail. So I went to realtor.com because that was by 05. I don't remember when I started doing direct mail, 04, 05. I think I went to realtor.com, and I would print off all these. Good God, how did I do it? It was so arduous. I would print off all these ads. Then I would go to the tax record, the tax website, manually cross-check hundreds of houses to get the mailing address. Now I'm manually stuffing envelopes with whatever letter I had, manually putting the stamp on, everything. My living room looked like a mail house, right? So that was a challenge. But once I did my first or second mailing, I'm like, oh my God, phone's ringing off the wall here. And then just kind of evolving that from doing it, that manually to getting, to get an account with the Postal Service and progressing through that. But so that was a challenge. Having I brought on a business partner who was a good friend of mine at the time. Brought on a business partner, and we really kind of cranked it up. But that was a challenge because it got to the point where I didn't know about business. I knew about lease options now, but not about business. And when I had to let him go, it was really because I didn't know when I brought him on. I'd been doing this thing for like 8 months, so I didn't know anything about business. But that was a challenge, because the breakup of a partnership is sometimes harder than a marriage, and so that was definitely a challenge. But then really being consistent on the marketing. There was times where I was doing so many houses that between myself and my partner, I was doing so many houses, I would go for 3 or 4 months without doing any marketing. So I'm like, I've got whatever, 20 houses I'm marketing, and I'm doing everything at the time. I'm, running out to show the house, taking all the phone calls, all that. And that was a whipping. So then bringing on what I called reps out in the field. I would get the houses, I'd send them the file. I never saw the house, never met the seller. So I was doing virtual lease options, and I didn't know there was a term for it. So just those growing pains, of trying to figure out how to make things more streamlined. Yeah.
Well, they have all that history and experience to teach your students and help
Oh,
them shorten that learning curve and avoid all of the downfalls and the mistakes that you had to deal with through your career. Any like fun or like interesting stories of student success?
oh man. Well, we just had one that I thought was really uh, interesting. The student had been with me for maybe 2 months. Maybe it's going to 3, 2 months. I don't remember. She lives in Austin, Texas. Got a deal in Scottsdale, Arizona. I don't know why she was marketing out there, but whatever. For a $1.7 million home, and ended up doing that. It ended up becoming a hybrid. So it was a little more complex, but helped her through that. And she got her first house made her $55,000 on a house she never saw, sellers she never met, buyers she never met. But that was really interesting. That was great to see, that first one out of the gate, at 55,000. I've got students in Canada doing deals in Florida. So I love that, seeing people that don't even live in this country,
That is so cool.
good deals. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love seeing that virtual stuff come together. Like the internet makes everything so it makes the world smaller,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so like you have people that are never seeing these properties, or never meeting the people face to face, the buyers or the sellers, and they're still able to put these transactions together 100% virtually.
Yeah. And I think there again, I think lease options are one of the easiest things to do virtually, because these houses, the pictures are already online. These aren't houses that need repair. They're move-in ready. So everything we need is right there online. And we don't have to meet
Right.
the seller, don't have to show that we don't have to meet the buyer. So it's one of the easiest things to do virtually, I think. Yeah.
How do you facilitate like an inspection or like a walkthrough? Do you just introduce the two parties and they kind of just handle it?
So there's normally not an inspection.
Hmm.
So if I'm in Fort Worth, if I'm doing a deal in say Orlando, which I don't go outside my county, but if I was doing a deal in Orlando, well, that's easy. The contracts all via DocuSign. Nothing's notarized. Nothing's filed with the county. That's easy. If I want boots in the ground, if the seller lives there, I'll ship the signs to the seller. He'll put the signs in the yard because he wants to help you sell the house. But if he doesn't live there, literally one post on Facebook and you've got boots in the ground. Because
Hmm.
I tell my students and anybody, wherever you're marketing, you want to join all the real estate investment Facebook groups, sub owner groups, all that. You want to join all those groups that you can, because if you need something, boots in the ground or whatever, you just make a post and bing, you got boots in the ground there. That'll put the signs out, show the house, all that. Yeah. So it's one of the easiest things to do virtually.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
But
But
you talked earlier about like trying to figure out how to market to sellers. And so you figured out the way of doing things through MLS. People always, everyone's looking for motivated sellers. And the first thing they always think is like, oh, I have to go direct to seller, right? From like a wholesale perspective or a fix and flip perspective. But the most motivated people to sell their houses are people that are currently trying to sell it or want to
yeah,
sell it on market. So it
yeah.
makes perfect sense. Like, how long did it take for you to figure that piece out? That like, man, these ones they're on the MLS. They just can't get the price they need or the right terms.
Yeah, I think so. I started in '03. I think by sometime in '04
It's
is when I
pretty
was like, oh my
quick.
gosh, I can market to them. I just need to market to the MLS. Again, having no idea how to do it and had to just figure it out. And yet today, here we are today, 21 years later, it's still my biggest method of marketing. And you don't have to send out 10,000 mail pieces. I'll send out normally 12 to maybe 1,400 pieces, and we'll get 6 to 8 houses out of that. You know,
That's a
um,
pretty good return.
yeah,
It's fairly low marketing cost, right? You're just talking about the cost of a stamp and a little bit of
yeah. It's a 50.
work.
Let me see here, Benson. If I've got, well, here I'm going to show you, and
Okay.
real quickly here. So I've got two main mail pieces. Um, this is return mail, so it's kind of ugly, but this is just your typical Street View postcard, but it's got specific verbiage in there.
Hmm.
It's got their little street, picture of the house, our logo, and there you go. This is 50 cents a piece. And then we've got this, again, this is a little bit tattered, but we've got this trifo brochure where they have to, it'll be taped. They've got to open it. But when they open it, they've got a lot of information in there. This one's 86 cents, depending on the volume, but just using this 50-cent mail piece, you'd be surprised how many houses we get with just
Oh
with
yeah.
just that. But that'll go to the MLS over 30, and then the phone rings. It's just easy conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Which, by the way, for your listeners, if you want to pull a list of MLS over 30, I've got a software called Privy.
Yes.
Little plug for you. Little plug
Yeah, I
for
appreciate that.
you.
Yeah, we got people using it for all different strategies, and I think it fits with a lot of different ones. But we were able to meet last week and found that
Yeah.
it worked for something that you were doing double work on, and it took
Oh
a little bit
yeah.
longer than multiple steps. So technology is great when it works.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what we do. Another thing that some challenges I had early on were buyers that were causing headaches, buyers that were defaulting. And at the end of the so that was a headache because now I'm getting phone calls from the buyer about this and the seller saying, hey, they didn't pay, just these challenges. And what I found is the common denominator was I was doing houses I shouldn't have been messing with, meaning
Mm,
houses that, yeah, you could probably use a little repair, but I lease optioned it. So now the buyer moves in and a month later, they've got some major electrical problem or plumbing problem, so they're calling me. They're mad because they just put whatever it was, 10,000 or whatever it was at the time down. Anyway, so again, learning curve. I stopped doing those houses. Now I only work with a certain type of property, and that attracts a certain type of buyer. So, I think in business and life, your rules are created by the mistakes you made, and then you have to stick to those rules. Years and years ago, I was a day trader for 2 years. I would write down every trade I made. And if I lost, if I made money or lost money, I wrote it down. Well, this spiral notebook became my rules. And I had what it was, probably 10 rules, I don't remember, that I would trade by. Um, and and once I had those rules, I could go anytime I lost money on a trade, almost every single time I could go back to my rules and go, oh, I broke rule 1 and 4, or I broke rule 2, 3, and 5, or whatever it was, right? But I learned those rules. I created those rules from my mistakes. I
I
think
like that.
I think it's the
So what?
same thing in business.
Yeah, it is. So what are some of the top rules you've created for lease options that you
Yeah.
stick by and that you encourage your students to stick by?
Yeah. We're not going to do crappy houses. If it needs repair, that's a seller finance. That's not lease option. So no crappy houses. Um, um, we've raised the bar on the criteria for the buyers. If they're getting close to 43% DTI, they're not a fit for that house. We're not going to spread out the option fee. So if it's 20,000 down, they've got 10. They go, hey, I got 10. Can I spread? Can I make payments on the other 10? No, I'm not going to do that. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Um, and those are actually three big ones right there. Um, Also, if the seller wants a massive amount down, I can't help you. That's seller finance. That's not a lease option. But the three big ones are really no crappy houses, uh, you know, certain criteria on the debt to income and the scores, and then we're not spreading out the option fee. If they don't have it, they don't get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
good core rules to follow by. Um, but for someone who's interested in getting into this, how do
Yeah.
they learn more about it? Like, is there a place they can go
Yeah.
to learn
Uh,
about you or your course?
no, absolutely. So um, I'm going to give you two websites. And the reason and I'm going to do this so I can see real deals in action. Then I'll give them another website where they can learn more about if they want to learn, the education side of it and how to learn what we do. But if you want to see the deals that we do, that my students do, to say, okay, what is it he's doing? You can go to our website, which is leasing to buy, leasingtobuy.com. And that's BUI spelled out, leasing to buy. If you want to learn how to do lease options on the education side, then go to leaseoptionclasses.com, leaseoptionclasses.com. Yep.
Awesome.
And there's some free training there and all kinds of stuff.
Are you doing anything on social?
Yeah, I'm always irritating people, making fun of people,
Yeah.
all that stuff. I'm always on Facebook posting, mainly making fun of people, friends, obviously. But I'll post deals that we've got going on. I actually posted this week hey, does anybody want to spend a day with me and ride around, come to my house, see what I do, see how we generate the leads, how I do all this. We'll go look at houses, we'll go put out signs, pick up signs, do all that stuff. And so, in a couple of days, I've got some people riding along with me for free, and I'm going to buy their lunch. They can ask me anything for a day. But on Instagram, it's John Jackson Official. I guess the little @ sign, John Jackson Official. So we've always got stuff posting in there. But yeah, I'm on Facebook as well. I think if you find me on Facebook, it's either John Jackson or Leasing to Buy. I think it's John Jackson. Yeah.
Awesome.
Just make sure it's the white John Jackson.
There's another one that's not white.
Yeah, there's a black boxer in Britain, apparently.
Oh, yeah, it'd be easy not to get you guys mixed up, I think, right?
Yeah, I could see where the confusion would come in.
Yeah. Awesome, John. Well, anybody out there who's looking to get into lease options, check out John, check out his website. There's a reason why they call him the king of lease options. There's a reason why attorneys are coming to take his contracts and work with him is because he knows what he's talking about. All right. He's a great guy to work with. He's hilarious. But most importantly, I think if you work with him, he'll have your best interest in mind. He's going to help you along the way. He's going to go hang out with a bunch of people for free next couple of days and drive them around and just pour into them. So check out John, go to his websites, look at what they're doing with the deals, look at his education. Certainly somebody that I would work with if I was looking to start off in the lease option business. But John, thanks for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to talk with you. And I got to learn a little bit more about you today that I didn't know before, because we're always like hustling to the next thing.
Yeah, the next event or whatever. Yeah.
Oh God. So it's hard to really get a little bit deeper, but thanks for sharing some nuggets about lease options and some of your trials and tribulations and how you overcame those. I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
You bet. Thanks for having me on here, Benson.
You got it. And everybody, thanks for watching this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Keep an eye out for more amazing guests like John, who are going to come in and talk about real estate investing, business, entrepreneurship, share some stories, give you guys some nuggets. So make sure you don't miss an episode. And so we'll see you guys on the next episode here in the next week or so. Everybody take care.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.